morning, Christ the King. It's Carolyn Philstrom here, and I'm coming to talk to you today about actually a topic that I have really come to enjoy talking about openly and publicly in a Christian faith community, and that's the topic of money and specifically giving it away, which is one of the things that Jesus talked about most in Scripture. So the theme for this week is stay committed. So I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about what does it take for me personally to stay committed to giving, which is something that I'm committed to doing. And I've just kind of thought about two different things. One is that it's really helpful for me to know and be in tune with what trips me up as far as giving away money. And that can be anything from resentment for people who don't give, to worry about the future, is there always going to be enough, to thinking about, well, what other things could I do with that money? But then it's really important for me to come back to reminding myself that I am committed to giving away 10% of my income as a tithe, as an act of faith. And I realize, by the way, that 10% number, for some people right now, they might really be struggling, especially in the COVID economy. Maybe that's not a doable number. And yet at the same time, our stock market is hitting record highs, and there are folks for whom that's really benefiting. And there might be folks who are able to give away even more than 10%. So just kind of wanted to name that. Anyway, so in order for me to stay committed, the second thing that I really need to think about is who or what in my life inspires me. So just a quick little show and tell. First and foremost, my parents. They really raised us to be generous with our time and money. And probably most importantly, as I heard a lot growing up, is to live simply. And to not live lavishly. My parents would always say, live below your means. So we kind of lived a simple lifestyle, and my parents do still live simply. As does another person you might know as my husband, Carolyn's husband, Rory. It really inspires me a lot to try to live more simply. And a big place that came from was his year of doing volunteer work in Chicago in the Lutheran Volunteer Corps, where he really lived very simply, and they didn't really get much of a stipend other than just living expenses. Here's their little cookbook. It's the Lutheran Volunteer Corps cookbook of a lot of simple meals. And so I really do try to be committed in a lot of areas of my life to try to live more simply. Just finally, a couple articles that I saw recently in the news that were really inspiring for me. The first was the wife and husband scientist team behind the COVID vaccine. Here's just a snippet of a description of them from the article. The two billionaires live with their teenage daughter in a modest apartment near their office. They ride bicycles to work. They do not own a car. And then another article recently about young millennials who were inheriting tons and tons of money from wealthy families. One of these young women, her name is Ms. Gelman, said this: "My money is mostly stocks, which means that it comes from underpaying and undervaluing working class people. And that's impossible to disconnect from the economic legacies of indigenous genocide and slavery. Once I realized that, I couldn't imagine doing anything with my wealth besides redistribute it to these communities." So those things really inspired me. And I hope that they inspire you, and I hope that you have all the support that you need in order to stay committed to giving. And I'm going to mention that later this week, you will receive a letter from Christ the King. So take some time to consider not only what you can commit to, but what support that you need in your life as a spiritual person in order to stay committed. Thanks.